Who was Michael Curtiz, and why does one of the very most acclaimed films ever made have a director who seems far less celebrated, though certainly not uncelebrated, by comparison? Michael Curtiz was a major master of the silent era, composing films in his native Hungary, and then moving westward, eventually being hired by Hollywood and helming the incredibly dangerous, even rather fatal to some, Noah's Ark production, released in 1928. Subsequently, Curtiz was more an American populist than a European expressionist, and arguably transformed the Hollywood assembly line focus from the theatrical Griffifian or Dwanian film, the set as a stage approach, and toward one where we were situated amongst the players. Compare 1926's The Black Pirate from Albert Parker, starring Douglas Fairbanks, to 1935's Captain Blood from Michael Curtiz, starring Errol Flynn. On a less lavish, though thoroughly disguised and immersive, film set, employing more filmic creative geography, even more inviting and malleable to a more assembly line, post-depression Hollywood economy. Dr. X Wax Museum and the very underrated The Walking Dead are some of the most effective horror films of the 1930s, a precedent for Jacques Tourneur's phenomenal horror work of the 1940s, though a precedent set by the likes of Todd Browning and James Whale via European expressionists, such as Curtiz was, to be quite sure. 1936's The Charge of the Light Brigade was the stylistic, logistical, structural middle ground between epics such as The Birth of a Nation and those of Gone with the Wind a few years later, situating the camera, the audience then, amongst the actors more so, assertively emphasizing a human melodrama as the factor which engages a viewer into the story of an epic, grandiose historical war. Not that Griffith didn't try, but the sound era required different, more overt strategies than close-ups and intertitles. Four of the more influential Hollywood films of that time, of the late 1930s and early 1940s, excluding Casablanca itself even, were For the Fantastical Adventures, the 1938 Robin Hood classic, which Dwan had directed in 1922, a major silent masterpiece. 1939's Angels with Dirty Faces moved the gangster genre closer toward the multifaceted epic than the star-centric character studies of Cagney, Muni, or Robinson, even having those feel somewhat meagre by comparison. 1941's The Sea Hand finalized a swashbuckling sensation which first appeared via Errol Flynn and Curtiz's earlier 1935 Captain Blood film, and 1941's The Sea Wolf may have been the best character study from Hollywood, yet were it not for Citizen Kane also being released that same year. The point is, Curtiz was so much more than just Casablanca, even before Casablanca, one of the most timeless, rewatchable, appealing, and accessible films across Hollywood history, a very appreciated favourite of my own, one which I first viewed at age 12 or so and loved thoroughly even then. Although, of course, after the success of Casablanca, Curtiz could then helm whatever films he liked, rather than composing one classic every 5 or 7 films as one of Hollywood's most productive and also highly successful filmmakers then and ever. Passage to Marseille, Mildred Pierce, The Unsuspected, Young Man with a Horn, The Breaking Point, and The Egyptian were likely enabled by Curtiz's heightened reputation following Casablanca. Now, Curtiz's career was still not perfect. He released a number of unmemorable films in between classics, even following Casablanca in 1942. By the late 1950s, his career was highly uneven. Only Scarlet Hour, Man in the Net, even The Hangman, stand out after 1954, where the 50s are concerned. 1961's Francis of Assisi, his second last film, is no Rossellini classic, though is very moving all the same. I may be biased via having faith. Anyway, on to Casablanca itself, so much is made by the casual fan and the cliche critic alike. What is Rick's true motivation? What is he thinking? What a complicated player. But the true fan of Casablanca knows that the most interesting pathology in the film is not Humphrey Bogart's Rick Blaine, but actually Claude Rains' Louis Renaud, cinema's finest supporting character, until Orson Welles' Harry Lime smiled at us under a brief light one fateful night in Vienna, 1949. Casablanca is a masterpiece, and whilst it is not the encapsulation of Curtiz's long and very varied filmmaking career, it is almost certainly the best, most impressive, most watchable, extraordinarily watchable, of his entire oeuvre. That the general film discourse consensus has gotten right in a roundabout way.